All right, welcome ladies and gentlemen to our review of adding integers. And at the end of this little video here, because we are doing a review topic for you, we better be able to accurately add integers. But just in case, we're going to take some time to go over some review of how we can model our integers first of all. Now, I prefer the rules, which we'll get to the rules here in a few seconds, but let's talk about how we can model integers on a number line. And if you need this, use it to your advantage. So again, so here we're starting with modeling addition of numbers on a number line. So when we talk about modeling addition on a number line, we talk about slides basically. So what this is telling me, -3 plus -6. So I'm going to start at 0 on my number line. And the -3 tells me to move 3 places to the left. Negatives generally move me left, positives move me right. So on top of that, I'm going to add a -6. Well, this negative is going to move me 6 more units to the left, and so my result in this case is where I end up. And you'll notice here I end up at -9. It's pretty much that simple when we're talking about our adding and subtracting integers. It's just sliding left and right along the number line, using the negative and positive numbers to move us in the appropriate direction. So -3 plus -6 is -9. All right, so let's do another here. -4 plus -6. Well, +4 plus -6. So +4 tells me start at 0, and because it's a positive, I will move to the right 4 units. And so at this point, I am sitting at +4. Well, on top of that, I'm adding a -6. Well, that negative is telling me to move back to the left 6 units. And so I slide back to the left 6 units, and you will notice that I end at -2. So the sum of those two numbers, actually probably maybe I should do this in red because it's a negative number, -2 is where I ended up with after my slides, to the right and to the left. So -2 is my solution. So, all right, a second model of integer addition and subtraction is the use of number tiles. Okay, and so what I have here, and again, if you need it, use it. If you don't. It's up to you. But here I have, we'll just call this the table. And based on my numbers here, and these are my representation of my tiles, I will put the appropriate number of tiles on the table. So first of all, I have a -7, which tells me I need 7 negative tiles. So I'm adding my 7 negative tiles to the table, just sliding them on. Okay, so there's my -7. On top of that, I'm going to add 4 more negative tiles. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I had positives on the table, a positive and a negative would cancel out, but in this case, you'll notice I don't have any. So at this point, it basically comes down to what is my total number of tiles? Well, if you count them up, there are 11 negative tiles, so my sum here is a -11. So that is, and if you're using number tiles and you want to use number tiles, then this is the way that we can model that addition and subtraction. So let's go ahead and, okay, -5 number tiles. So I'm going to put 5 negatives on my table. So there are 5 right there. 5 negatives, plus 8. Well, that means then I need 8 positive number tiles. And let me slide them onto my table here. And actually, let me move over just a little bit. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I was hoping to get them all in a row, but I won't be able to get them all in a row. Okay, that's okay. So now, when we look at this, we'll go, okay, a positive and a negative are opposites, so they will cancel each other out. So 5 negatives will, and if you want to move them off of the table or whatever you want to do, or just cross them out, you can. But we know that 5 of these will cancel out with 5 of these, so those are no longer on the table. They cancel out. And so what am I left with? Well, I am left with 3 positive number tiles on the table. So my solution is 3. And so that is a way that we can model using number tiles. I am a rule kind of a guy. Okay, that's just sort of the way that my my mind works, so I prefer to use the rules. So now we're going to model using rules, and so basically there are two rules that come into play. To add integers with the same sign, find the sum of their number values, that would be the absolute values, together, and then attach the sign. To add integers with different signs, you will find the difference, so you will subtract their number values and attach the sign of the greater number. And again, I've used quotations here because technically we're talking about absolute values, and but a lot of people don't necessarily at this point deal with those terms very well of absolute values, but it is an absolute value concept. So I prefer the rules. So when I look at these numbers, and you notice I've used bigger rules, okay, in E I have two numbers. I have a positive and a negative. So I'm going to go back to this rule number 2, adding integers with different signs. I find the difference of their number values, and I attach the sign of the greater number. So okay, I come back here. So 35, and I know when I'm doing, now if you're putting in the calculator, might be a different thing, but when I do standard subtraction, and again I am subtracting because their signs are different, so 5 minus 3 is 2, 3 minus 2 is 1, and I will attach the sign of the larger absolute value, which in this case is negative 35, so my answer is a negative 12. And I subtracted them, again, because they have different signs. If you want to put this in even into money values and ideas, I have $23, but I owe $35. Well, if I pay the person that I owe the 23 I have, where am I left at that point? Well, I still owe $12. So, all right, so I have negative 12 and negative 35. That would be my first rule. Oh, let me use the... So to add integers, I'm going to add their values together. I'm going to take their sum, and I'm going to attach the sign. So in this case, I know I'm going to have a negative answer. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add these together, 12 and 35. Just take their sum, make them into a bigger, and what I'm doing is making them into a larger negative number. A larger absolute value, I guess, negative. But 5 plus 2 is 7. 3 plus 1 is 4. So negative 47. So what this is saying, if I put it into money terms, I owe $12. I then borrow $35. What is my total amount that I earn? Well, I now owe $47. So, sort of throwing in a fourth model of integer addition, because most of you are pretty good with your addition and subtraction of money ideas anyway. So, now, so I've added a third number here, but the rules don't change, and we know using our order of operations, which we're going to get to again later anyway, in review. When we get to the addition and subtraction part of it, we do that from left to right. So I'm going to start by putting those two numbers together, and then I'll bring in the third number. Now in this case, I have a negative and a negative, so I'm going to add their absolute values together. And in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and add them in my head. This is 29. And because we have two negatives, we will go with that sign. Now we're going to bring the plus 8 down into the mix, okay, and deal with it as its own new separate problem. Well, in this particular case, though, I have a negative and a positive, so I'm going to subtract their number values. So 29 minus 8 is 21. And I will go with the sign of the larger absolute value, which is the 29, so I need to make it negative. So my answer is a negative 21. All right. So adding, again, from left to right, so negative 12 and negative 35, you'll notice similar start to the previous problem. I need to add their values together, their absolute value, so it looks like a total of 47, but because they are both negatives, I will go with its sign, and I now need to bring my plus negative 4 into the mix. And I'm in a similar situation here where I have two negatives, so I'm going to add them together, and 51 will be the total, and because they're both negatives, it will end up being a negative 51. So I'm just working from left to right as they appear when I do and then applying the rules as I go along. So again, we are at the end of this section, and once again, 6 is cowering in the corner from 7, and probably for good reason. But anyway, don't get frightened by that. Go work on the section attached to this particular assignment, 1-2, and good luck. Come see me for help.